नमस्कार। राष्ट्रपति भवन से इस विशेष प्रसारण में आपका स्वागत है। यहाँ आपसे कुछ ही देर में माननीय राष्ट्रपति श्री प्रणब मुखर्जी दूसरे विजिटर्स कॉन्फ्रेंस का उद्घाटन करेंगे और इसके अंतर्गत राष्ट्रीय विद्यार्थी स्टार्टअप पॉलिसी को लॉन्च किया जाएगा। हमारा देश युवाओं के लिए कई नई संभावनाएं और अवसरों को लेकर खड़ा हुआ है। इसलिए शिक्षा के साथ साथ कौशल विकास और तकनीकी ज्ञान भी जरूरी है। The second visitors conference is being hosted by the Hon'ble President Shri Pranab Mukherjee here at the Darbar Hall of Rashtrapati Bhavan. As a part of the conference, the President will launch the National Student Startup Policy in the presence of Union Minister for Human Resource Development Shri Prakash Javadekar and Professor Anil Sahasrabuddhe, Chairman AICTE. The National Student Startup Policy has been formulated by AICTE with the aim to propel Indian youth to contribute to the nation's socio-economic progress through the promotion of technology-driven student startups. Through an exposure on entrepreneurship, the policy will lend crucial soft skills like decision-making in students. The new policy of AICTE, or the All India Council for Technical Education, will enable students pursuing their undergraduate and postgraduate degrees to take up specialized courses for startups. The conferences at Rashtrapati Bhavan have accorded an opportunity to heads of central institutions to share their views on a host of important issues that affect the higher education sector in India. Recommendations and action points emerging from the deliberations are pursued by administrative ministries, regulatory bodies, the institutions of higher learning and others concerned. This has resulted in significant improvements in our institutions and in the higher education system of our country over the last 4 years. Participating in the conference are eminent intellectuals and academics, and industry academia session will also take place on the first day of this conference, where eminent personalities from industry and academy will participate. 32 central institutions and 65 industry organizations will exchange as many as 68 MOUs during the conference. On the second and third day of the conference, there will be panel discussions and group work on agenda items of the conference, as well as a presentation on converting Rashtrapati Bhavan into a smart township and extending the experience to select villages through the Smart Model Gram project. The future belongs to India, the largest, vibrant democracy in the world, teeming with opportunities. With hope in their eyes and a yearning to learn, the youth of this great nation awaits a new paradigm of education that fosters knowledge with analytical skills, logical reasoning, and the ability to imagine beyond the given and to think out of the box. Technical education plays a vital role in the social and economic development of our nation. The All India Council of Technical Education's move is an extension of the Honorable Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi's string of incentives to support startups in the country, which has the world's third largest number of such ventures. Technical education in India contributes a major share to the overall education system and plays a vital role in the social and economic development of the nation. In India, technical education is imparted at various levels such as craftsmanship, diploma, degree, postgraduate, and research in specialized fields, catering to various aspects of technological development and economic progress. The agenda for this two-day visitors conference includes creating world-class higher educational institutions, creating global alliance of institutes for research, innovation, and technology development, making India a favored destination for higher learning, technology-induced models of pedagogy and funding options for higher education. Earlier this year, the Prime Minister had announced a 3-year income tax holiday and a rupee 10 crore fund for its Startup India initiative, which is crucial for the country struggling to revive industry and create jobs needed to absorb about 10 million people joining the workforce every year. The beginning of formal technical education in India can be dated back to the mid-19th century. The major policy initiatives in the pre-independence period included appointment of the Indian Universities Commission in 1902, the issue of the Indian Education Policy Resolution in 1904, and the Governor General's Policy Statement of 1913, stressing the importance of technical education, the establishment of IISc in Bangalore, and many other significant developments, which include the constitution of the Technical Education Committee of the Central Advisory Board of Education in 1943, the formation of the All India Council for Technical Education, AICTE, in 1945 by the Government of India. In fact, it was in November 1945 that AICTE was established as a national level apex advisory body to conduct survey on the facilities on technical education. The Honorable President is expected in the Darbar Hall any moment now. the Honorable President, Shri Pranab Mukherjee.
A very good afternoon to you, ladies and gentlemen. I welcome you all to the historic Darbar Hall. We would now begin the proceedings of the inaugural session. May I now request Srimati Amita Paul, Secretary to the Honorable President, to welcome this august gathering. Srimati Amita Paul.
Honorable President, Sir, Honorable Minister for Human Resource Development, Shri Ashok Gajapati Raju, Minister for Civil Aviation, Dr. Mahendranath Pandey, Minister of State in the Ministry of Human Resource Development, leaders of the institutions of higher learning, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. It is my proud privilege to extend a warm welcome to all of you to the second Visitors Conference at Rashtrapati Bhavan. I am grateful to you, Sir, Mr. President, Sir, for being with us this morning, and to all the honorable ministers and dignitaries for their august presence. My special thanks to the Vice Chancellors and directors of all the central institutes of higher learning attending the conference. Ladies and gentlemen, Shri Pranab Mukherjee had laid out his vision for his presidency at the very beginning of his term as the 13th President of India. In his acceptance speech, he had said, and I quote, "Education is the alchemy that can bring India its next golden age." During the past 4 years, he has relentlessly worked towards transforming the higher education sector of the country. As the visitor of 126 central institutions of higher learning, President Mukherjee proactively deepened his engagement with these institutions, reaching out to the entire higher education ecosystem of our country. As the President, he has visited more than 140 higher educational institutions for convocations and other landmark events. Since January 2014, he's been addressing students and faculty of educational institutions twice a year through the National Knowledge Network. In his interaction in August this year, his video address was linked to about 1,340 institutions. He has hosted over 150 teachers, students, innovators, artists, writers, and other creative minds at Rashtrapati Bhavan under the In-Residence program. He started the practice of taking along academic delegations during his visits abroad. This has provided a platform for our central institutions to formalize collaborations with their foreign counterparts. It has resulted in 92 MOUs during his 12 visits abroad. Ladies and gentlemen, Higher education is a critical factor for the nation's development. It is a prerequisite for a society built on knowledge and values. President Mukherjee sees vice chancellors and directors as vanguard of India's higher education system. Barely 6 months into his presidency, a conference of vice chancellors of central universities was organized. Only once before, in 2003, had such a conference been held. Over the next 3.5 years, 7 more conferences were organized, the last one being the first ever visitors conference held in November 2015, where heads of all central institutions participated. These conferences have provided a platform for academic leaders to sit together to introspect as well as plan ahead for the development of our higher education system. Ladies and gentlemen, President Mukherjee provided direction to the institutions and the policymakers by laying emphasis on a host of key issues. He repeatedly called for greater importance to international rankings and suggested steps to mitigate faculty shortages. He called for giving primacy to a stronger research ecosystem and social relevance in research, discovering and promoting innovations at grassroots levels, recognizing and organizing inspired teachers in a network, building strong industry-academia linkage, and a technology-enabled learning system like MOOCs. President Mukherjee also encouraged the institutions to view themselves as social entities and called upon them to support the socio-economic agenda of the government. He asked the institutions to adopt villages and convert them into model villages. The institutions responded to the vision of the President with faith. The results on several fronts are very encouraging. Let me mention a few positive developments. Indian institutions, not one but 2, have entered the top 200 in the international rankings in 2015 and have retained their presence this year also. Early implementation of Project Vishwajit will give a big boost to this effort. With the launch of the India-centric National Institutional Ranking Framework of the Ministry of HRD, more and more Indian institutes of higher learning should be able to realize their potential to emerge as world-class institutions. The Global Initiative for Academic Networks, GYAN, is helping to tap the global pool of academicians and scientists for Indian institutions. With the reduction in the threshold limit of salary to foreign faculty from $25,000 to $15,000, this program is bound to witness greater success. The Imprint India, a pan-IIT and IISc's initiative launched at last year's conference, resonates the President's call at the IIT Directors Conference in 2014 for linking research and innovation to the requirements of the country and community. Innovation clubs now exist in 86 central institutions, Inspire Teachers networks in 69 institutions, and industry interface cells in 90 institutions. 43 institutions today offer courses on MOOC platform. 84 institutions have adopted over 600 villages for turning them into model villages. President Mukherjee has given impetus to industry-academia collaborations, a unique initiative of exchanging MOUs between industry and academia was taken for the first time in the Visitors Conference 2015. 43 MOUs were exchanged last night. This year, we'll witness 67 such MOUs being exchanged in the evening. Ladies and gentlemen, as we celebrate the progress made so far, there is a need to further strengthen the transformational efforts for the conference this year, the agenda items have been chosen carefully in consultation with the Ministry of HRD and all other stakeholders. We have structured the conference to allow healthy discussion and generation of ideas. After the inaugural session, there will be group work on action taken reports. The participants have been divided into 5 groups for the purpose. The evening will be devoted to a talk by persons of eminence and the industry academia session, where MOUs between industry and academia will be exchanged in the presence of the President. Next day, we'll have 3 panel discussions where eminent panelists have been invited to deliberate and share their insights on the agenda items. This will be followed by group work on the agenda items. 5 groups will deal with 1 agenda item each. It will be followed by a presentation on the RB Smart Township and our Smart Gram initiative. On the last day of the conference, in the concluding session, 1 representative each from the groups will make a short presentation before the President. And the co-chairs of the panels will also have an opportunity to make their observations. With these words, I once again welcome you to the conference and to 2 days of intensive discussions and deliberations. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. May I now request Shri Prakash Javadekar, Honorable Minister of Human Resource Development, to address the gathering. Honorable Minister, sir.
माननीय राष्ट्रपति जी और यहाँ उपस्थित सभी टीम एजुकेशन इंडिया, क्योंकि हायर एजुकेशन के सभी कर्णधार यहाँ उपस्थित है, और राष्ट्रपति प्रणब मुखर्जी के लिए तो मैं यही कहूँगा कि इतनी सार्थक पहल उन्होंने शुरू की कि जिसके कारण हम राष्ट्रपति भवन में 3 दिन विचार विमर्श करते हैं हाउ टू इंप्रूव आवर हायर एजुकेशन सिनेरियो. दैट इज हिज कमिटमेंट. लेकिन अभी एक मुझे पता चला, उससे तो मैं थोड़ा डर गया कि उन्होंने 140 कॉन्वोकेशन अभी तक एड्रेस किए हैं. अब ये कॉम्पीट करना मुझे थोड़ा डिफिकल्ट लग रहा है, लेकिन आई ओ यू सर योर लव फॉर हायर एजुकेशन, योर कमिटमेंट फॉर हायर एजुकेशन. और मैं एक सुझाव भी देना चाहूँगा कि आपके क्योंकि हर जगह मैंने देखा आपके बहुत विचारप्रद भाषण होते हैं, तो कॉन्वोकेशन एड्रेस का भी एक अच्छा किताब आप निकाले, ये और हम निकालेंगे एचआरडी, ये मैं बताना चाहता हूं कि ये होना चाहिए. राष्ट्रपति भवन भी आप जो देख रहे हैं ना, लीडरशिप सब जगह होती है. मैं ये उदाहरण इसलिए दे रहा हूं कि आप भी आपकी यूनिवर्सिटी का रूप सब तरीके से बदलना है, केवल क्वालिटी नहीं. ये जो राष्ट्रपति भवन को एकदम नया रूप आया अनेक सालों के बाद, पहले हम रोज यहाँ आते थे तो कैसा था, और अभी आप राष्ट्रपति भवन का पूरा परिसर देखोगे, नए जो प्रदर्शनी तैयार की है वो भी देखिए, क्योंकि देखने लायक चीज़ है. तो हम हमारे कैंपस को भी कैसे अच्छा बना सकते हैं, इसका भी आदर्श वस्तुपाठ राष्ट्रपति जी ने दिया है. तो मैं उनका बहुत ही इसमें मुझे बहुत अच्छा लगता है कि उनकी ये पहल निश्चित सार्थक होगी. Last month only in July we had interstate council meeting, and in interstate council meeting all chief ministers were there, and what we concluded was very encouraging. Everybody appreciated that during last 70 years after independence we have achieved expansion. Now is the necessity to improve the quality at all level of education. मुझे एक प्रेस वालों ने पूछा, आपकी मंत्री बने जुलाई में, तो पूछा आपकी 3 प्रायोरिटीज क्या है, तो मैंने कहा मेरी पहली प्रायोरिटी क्वालिटी, दूसरी प्रायोरिटी क्वालिटी और तीसरी प्रायोरिटी क्वालिटी. यही एजुकेशन को आगे ले जाएगा और भारत का नाम रोशन होगा, तो that is the only thing. So national education policy is on anvil. It's in making. And most of you have already given your inputs, but those who have remained also can give it, because we will have a committee to prepare the final draft with an eminent academician as its head of the committee. And the 5 pillars of education policy are accessibility, equity, affordability, quality, and accountability. And we will take education policy in that direction. After all, सा विद्या या विमुक्त ये विद्या का उद्देश्य क्या है? सब्जेक्ट नॉलेज एक छोटा पार्ट है, कौशलता एक छोटा पार्ट है। सबसे बड़ा मुद्दा है कि विद्या से, एजुकेशन सिस्टम से अच्छा इंसान बने, अच्छा देश का सिटीजन बने। यही हमारा सबका उद्देश्य होना चाहिए। और इसलिए लर्निंग आउटकम्स को राइट टू एजुकेशन में मेंशन था, लेकिन प्राइमरी लेवल पे ही ये बदलने की स्थिति जरूरत है। और इसलिए वी हैव डिसाइडेड टू डिफाइन लर्निंग आउटकम्स। वी हैव ऑलरेडी कंप्लीटेड द वर्क, and in the final stage, now very soon we will codify and define those as and make it rules of right to education, where the learning outcomes at each standard, first, second, third, fourth, fifth, all will be mentioned. So that's starting again more emphasis on quality at primary level. At higher education level, when we get good product from school education system, fortunately, earlier also Prime Minister Manmohan Singh himself, a professor, our president also, and our now Prime Minister Narendra Modi also is very much interested in quality education, higher education becoming research and innovation centers. So that's a real good combination which we have, fortunately. And therefore, new initiatives, many have been initiated by Rashtrapati ji also, but it's all teamwork. And so higher education finance agency, which will leverage through debt market and create 20,000 crore rupees and give a best research infrastructure push in all the universities. PM scholarships for all best talented youths who really go, why people go, best of the best talents go out of country. Why? Because they don't have research labs, best quality here, and scholarships. So we'll do both. And still there is a proposal for green, where it will be global research interactive network, in which the student will also during the time of his research, 1 year or 6 months, will have the access to the best of the world's laboratory in the field in which he is working. We have also improved startup incubation, Uchchatar Avishkar Yojana, that is ensures industry academia interaction and more meaningful research, relevant research, and that is what we will be discussing it in the, and the GAN, foreign faculties coming here, that also is an important thing. And now we have our own Swayam MOOCs, our own Indian MOOCs, and I want to make it best. The starting point may be good, but I want to make it best, and so it will be every time upgraded. So Swayam and IIT PAL are 2 new initiatives using the technology and media, and there are many in the store. And Unnat Bharat, as she mentioned, is all about reaching out to the society. Students came to me, fellows came to me, they are working in primary education in rural areas. I asked them one question. I asked them, what you have learned? Because you have not been there to teach. You learn. And then what you have unlearned. Both are important. And therefore, this conference will provide good action plan for us to work on and motivate us for better action. That's what we expect from this conference. And I'll be again meeting you all the 3 days. I'll be available, though there is parliament session is on, and there is a very heated debate is on, because on the backdrop of 2 surgical strikes, one across the border and one within, So there is a debate, and that's what the place Parliament is. So I'll be hopping between Parliament and our conference, but we'll meet, and I hope that this conference will really guide us for a better future. Thank you and all the best.
Thank you, sir. I now have the pleasure of inviting Professor Anil D. Sahasrabuddhe, Chairman AICTE, to make a presentation on the student startup policy. Professor, sir.
Thank you very much. Honorable President, sir, Honorable Union Minister for Human Resource Development, Secretary to the President, other Union Ministers, educationists, directors and vice chancellors from centrally funded institutions. It is indeed a great honor for AICTE that today our Honorable President, sir, is going to launch AICTE's student startup policy. In fact, it's going to be a game changer. We extremely are happy and delighted that the Honorable President has accepted to launch this policy today during the Visitors' Conference. Our inspiration has been our Honorable Prime Minister, who during the last Independence Day address gave an important initiative, that is Startup India and Stand Up India, and followed by that, in the month of January 2016, a startup policy for the country was announced with a 10,000 crore startup fund. I think few IITs, NITs and centrally funded institutions doing some startup may not be enough for a country of our size. Our team India is 1.25 billion people, and therefore AICTE with its 10,000 plus institutions is the right place to have a startup ecosystem to get developed. Our Honorable Union Minister for Human Resource Development has been always supportive for all the innovative actions that we undertake. And therefore, our vision has been, how do we convert these 10,000 institutions of engineering, pharmacy, architecture, all technical institutions into startup hubs? And that's where, even if 10% of them do it very seriously and sincerely, in about 10 years' time, we would have 100,000 startups, creating about an employment of 1 million. And that is the vision with which we have started off. I think this is a very important picture which shows the entire philosophy behind our startup policy, as well as how we are going to implement this policy. At the core is the AICTE, and there are few institutions which have been already doing startups. They are the important core initial institutions who will start up with this, and they will spread the message to other institutions in the neighborhood, supporting at least another 10 to 20 institutions. Thereby, a chain reaction will begin in the form of hub and spoke model, and I'm sure that about thousands of institutions will undertake this startup policy of AICTE to its logical conclusion. Few important things which are there in the part of AICTE's startup policy include the courses on entrepreneurship, finance, which will help students to understand what startup is all about. That is number one. We will also hold workshops, create short films, which will encourage students to take up the startups. And last but not the least, AICTE will act as a bridge between these institutions and the government agencies, maybe Niti Aayog, Department of Science and Technology, MITI, Skill Development Ministry, Ministry for Small and Medium Scale Enterprises, so that students and faculty from these institutions get help from all these government agencies and will create a startup ecosystem in the country, which is today third largest in the world. We'll take it to number one in the world. Thank you very much for your patient hearing. Sir, we would like to have your blessings, and we would like to have support from all of you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. I now have the proud privilege of requesting the Honorable President to launch the student startup policy of AICTE by clicking the button. Thank you, sir. May I now request the Honorable President to kindly release the Student Startup Policy document. Professor Sharash Budhet to kindly facilitate. Thank you, Honorable President, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, I now have the proud privilege of requesting the Honorable President for his inaugural address. Honorable President, sir.
Good afternoon. Sri Ashok Gajapati Raju, Minister Civil Aviation, Sri Prakash Javadekar, Minister for Human Resource Development, Dr. Mahendranath Pandey, Minister of State for Human Resource Development, distinguished Vice Chancellors, heads of the institutions, guests, ladies and gentlemen. I welcome you to this historic Darbar Hall. Many of you might have been acquainted with this historic hall, which has witnessed many momentous changes which have affected our lives, and not only the lives of the people in Indian subcontinent, but to a vast multitude of people living in South and Southeast Asia. I am glad that formally I am inaugurating the conference, second visitors conference, in this hall where there is the congregation of the mighty minds. I extend special welcome to those heads of the academic institutions who are attending this conference for the first time. I have had the good fortune to interact with you and the institutions you represent on several occasions, be it the 8th conferences held here in the last 4 years, the video conferences, or the convocations and other special occasions. My interface with you has enriched my understanding of the higher education sector in this country. The conference at Rashtrapati Bhavan provide a platform to the central institutions of higher learning for in-depth discussions on crucial matters concerning higher education. We have had the benefit of unique insights of academic leaders and experts on issues like faculty augmentation and development, global standing of our institutions, research and innovation, alumni involvement in the management of institutions, collaboration with foreign universities and industry, effective utilization of technology, including knowledge networks, and alignment of institutional goals with societal requirements. The recommendations that have emerged from the previous conferences have been worked upon by all concerned, particularly the institutions. Some of the action points are ambitious, but it only shows the willingness and drive of the captains of these institutions to aim higher and achieve better. I am eager to hear from them about the progress made on all fronts. Distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen, the growth of an economy has a close linkage with the knowledge generated in its universities. The technical, professional, scientists, and researchers trained in these knowledge centers contribute to the nation's competency level and competitiveness. Their scientific efforts induce greater systematic efficiency through innovations, introduce newer and better products and services, and incentivize follow-up research. When universities function as pioneers in scholastic and research fields, they not only help maintain their own leadership position, but also that of their economies. Outward-looking nations have higher learning institutions with global orientation, even while they serve as storehouses of the local history and culture. Institutions today seek to be benchmarked globally, motivated by honest pride and a desire to reflect the home country's status in the Committee of Nations. Distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen, India has achieved considerable economic success since it became a free nation 7 decades ago. Her average decadal growth rate has increased from 3.9% in the past 3 decades of the last century, of post-independence era, and thereafter improving 5.7 to 5.6 to 5.7, and finally to achieve 7.7% GDP growth for the entire decade of the 21st century. India today occupies an envious position of being the fastest growing economy amongst the major economies of the world. However, the global rankings of our higher educational institutions belie our economic powers. Focused action on the ratings process over the last 3 years has yielded some dividends. 2 Indian institutions have come to occupy positions within the top 200, but our institutions deserve much more. We must aim at have many of our institutions within the top 100 in the near future, and for that we need a strategic vision aided by concerted action. Distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen, in the conference of the Chairman, Board of Governors and Directors of IITs held in August 2014, I had suggested that we must identify 7 to 10 institutions which, with some support, can find a place in the top 100 rankings in the international agencies. I am happy to find this recommendation getting traction now with HRD Ministries Project Vishwajit. The proposals made by the 7 IITs, Kharagpur, Kanpur, Bombay, Delhi, Madras, Guwahati and Roorkee, should be expeditiously examined by the Minister of HRD for quick implementation. Indian students go abroad seeking quality higher education. India ranked first among the top 25 countries sending students to US with 25% growth this year. Indian students make up 16% of the total international students in United States. Considering the foreign exchange outgo from our students going abroad, the resource requirement of rupees 22,000 crore spread over 5 years projected by the 7 IITs for Project Vishwajit does not appear to be a big amount. These resources have to be found through innovation funding mechanism. The proposed policy of Ministry of Human Resource Development to establish 10 world-class institutions, each in public and private sector, is also a very welcome step. Through an enabling regulatory environment, these institutions can achieve global standing in teaching and research. Distinguished leaders of the higher education, the road to becoming world-class institutions is through the trinity of talent, resources, and management. Our institutions must brim with meritorious students and top-notch faculty. Mobility of students through measures like choice-based credit system is important. So too, mobility of faculty, and for that, an encouraging environment like proper implementation in the pension portability is necessary. Higher education is becoming increasingly expansive. To attract bright students with limited means, a support base comprising options like deferred and variable fees and income contingent loans will be necessary. Access to higher education is also hampered by information asymmetry. Various funding and communication and counseling models have to be developed depending on specific requirements. Distinguished participants, our institutions must become magnets for talent, not only internal but also from outside. By sourcing students and faculty from abroad, they can deliver education in a global setting, enriching their scholars with international and intercultural skills. From brain drain, we must shift to abundance of brain drain. As many successful Indian professionals working abroad are keen to come back, excited by the opportunities unfolding in a changing India, with adequate thrust on internationalization of our institutions, we can develop brain networks. Distance learning programs, particularly MOOCs, can enhance virtual mobility. Cross-country collaborations can result in a vortex of ideas and outcomes. The recent reduction in the threshold limit of annual salary for hiring the foreign faculty will not only help induct international experience but also mitigate faculty shortage. Already, initiatives like IGYAN are showing good results. We need to take this engagement further, where our institutions are seen as the next generation destinations of higher learning. Ladies and gentlemen, world-class institutions can be developed only with adequate financial resources. Government funding in public institutions are limited to budget constraints. Tuition fees are relatively inelastic compared to cost escalation. To cater to the progress of our central institutions, the fund requirements must be supplemented by other sources such as endowments and contracts for research projects from industry. I am happy to find industry interface cells in most central institutions are operating now. But there is a need to review their work and upgrade their performance. Institutions and industry are taking a proactive stance in signing Memorandum of Understandings. Last year, 43 MOUs were exchanged during the industry academic session of the Visitors Conference. In my visit abroad, the academic delegations, which I am proud of taking along with me, have signed 92 Memorandum of Understandings with their foreign counterpart institutions. The focus now has to be on implementation of these agreements. Going forward, we have to shift gears in terms of the contents of Memorandum of Understanding signs. More emphasis must be laid on high ambition contracts like collaborative research and development, commissioning of research projects, and allowing the use of research and development infrastructure like laboratories, incubators, and marks. Linkages with the business schools must also be established. Such schools can provide market knowledge to test the innovations, enhancing from the minds and laboratories in institutions. Indeed, we must develop our institutions as teaching, research, and entrepreneurial center. Ladies and gentlemen, another vital prerequisite for a world-class institution is of the governance model that encourage creative thinking, scientific scrutiny, and critical reflection. It enforces a mechanism of accountability that enables institutions to respond to changes in the external environment with agility, thereby promoting competitiveness. A good governance model also calls for strong institutional leaders who drive the vision of the institution with commitment and pursue excellence. Such academic leaders inspire fellowship amongst students and fellow educators by encouraging free exchange of views and facilitating organizational learning. Distinguished participants, the challenge to attain the global standards for our higher education system is twofold. We need our established institutions to graduate into the world-class centers of learning. At the same time, we need new institutions to take off successfully, overcoming the nation stage hurdles. Some of the new institutions have been set up in remote areas of the country. They hold great promises to spur the development of their regions. They can be the bridge to build local capacity for teaching and learning. Necessary assistance, both financial and administrative, must be at their disposal to see that these institutions start functioning at full capacity. In conferences of the NIT directors held in 2013 and 14, I had stressed upon the need for greater cooperation between institutes of higher learning. The current practice of mentoring of new central institutions by established institutions must be intensified. In addition, mechanisms for regional cooperation among central institutions should also be put in place. The new institutions should do well to remember that while constructing new facilities for teaching and practical learning, the requirements of modern curriculum and pedagogic methods have to be kept in mind. At times, manpower or financial resources may become a constraint. Innovative teaching aids like sourcing e-content and lectures through knowledge network must be deployed. It must be ensured that an efficient communication infrastructure is put in place in these far-off institutions. Ladies and gentlemen, there have been incidents of students' unrest in our institutions in recent past. Our campuses must have a harmonious and peaceful environment for students to pursue higher studies and research. Vice Chancellors and Directors must deal with any unpleasant situation with sagacity and apt handling. They must take help of all well-wishers, including the inspired teachers, who by the dint of their wisdom, conviction, and conduct and influence can inspire confidence among students and have a calming effect. The concerned administrative ministries must also facilitate the academic leaders and the communities. In India, we have enough talent. With the largest population of the youth, we are poised to leverage a low dependency ratio, but that depends on the productivity of the population in the working age bracket. If there are enough jobs in the country, there will be no content, refinement, and perfection. An opposite scenario can spell disaster. The restlessness and frustration of the youth manifests in unrest and upheaval. Let us not allow such a situation to appear on our horizon. We must turn our evolving demographic configuration into strength. For that, adequate job creation is a priority. The job creation figures of 1.35 lakh in 2015, which is the lowest in 7 years, are not encouraging. With machines fast replacing men, we have to look at a paradigm shift. We have to prepare our youth who are buzzing with innovative ideas to turn into entrepreneurs. We also have to enable our students turned innovators turned entrepreneurs to be able to successfully harness the market. You, as heads of the central institutions, must consider this as your prime responsibility if we have to achieve equitable growth. I am happy to have launched the student startup policy of AICTE today. I see great potential in this policy to unleash the entrepreneurial talent of our students of higher learning. Ladies and gentlemen, just as there are peaks in mountain ranges, there are world-class institutions amongst the vast number of higher learning institutions globally. In India, the number of such knowledge peaks on the horizon are few. We need many more such peaks in India is to be counted as a world knowledge power. As leaders of central institutions, you must come up with innovative ways to take the ambition of our country in higher education forward. I look forward to some constructive suggestions and imaginative outcomes from this forum. I wish you purposeful thinking and progressive deliberations over the next 2.5 days. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for your patience. Jai Hind.
Thank you, Honorable President, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, we would now shortly draw the curtain on the inaugural function of the Visitors' Conference. I'm sure that none of you would disagree with me if I say we have had a very impressive inaugural session. It would indubitably lay the trend for the 3 days of deliberation. With these few words, ladies and gentlemen, let me move on to my assigned task of proposing vote of thanks, which I shall do with your permission. Honorable President, sir, Honorable Union Minister for HRD, Shri Prakash Javadekar, Honorable Civil Aviation Minister, Shri Ashok Gajapati Raju, Honorable MOS HRD, Shri Mahendra Nath Pandey, Secretary to the Honorable President, distinguished invitees, ladies and gentlemen. This program, as you all are aware, was conceived by the Honorable President, who himself is a scholar and a teacher, who inspires and enlightens the students as much as he guides the eminent. Honorable President, sir, your presence is always a source of encouragement, and the path that you have underlined in your address would pave the way for breaking new avenues to upgrade our educational system. On behalf of all those who are present here and my own behalf, please accept our heartfelt gratitude for being the lodestar of this program. We are also grateful to you, Honorable HRD Minister, for your inspiring words. We are also encouraged by the presence of Honorable Civil Aviation Minister and Honorable MOS HRD. We celebrate your presence, sir. Let me also avail of this occasion to thank Srimati Omita Paul, Secretary to the Honorable President, for working diligently to implement the vision of the Honorable President. As a consequence, no day passes in Rashtrapati Bhavan without a function being held. And the casualty, the promised break for us, which we are waiting even after 52 months of this presidency. I'm afraid that we will have to wait till the last days of this presidency for us to take a break. I fully realize the presence of a galaxy of personalities here. I crave your indulgence. I beg your pardon that I would not be able to thank you all personally by taking your name and thanking you for your benign presence. Nevertheless, I shall let you know that we celebrate your presence over here. We are grateful to all the Vice Chancellors, Secretaries to Government of India, all the eminent personalities for joining us this afternoon. I'm sure you will have 2 days of great deliberation. Let me conclude by once again thanking you for accepting our invitation and for being with us. Thank you and Jai Hind. Ladies and gentlemen, please rise for the national anthem.
The Honorable President of India, Shri Pranab Mukherjee, inaugurated the second Visitors' Conference and launched the National Student Startup Policy formulated by AICTE. इसके साथ ही राष्ट्रपति भवन के दरबार हॉल से अलविदा। पूरी टीम की ओर से नमस्कार। जय हिंद।